We can start at 5. Good evening, everyone. Today I'm stepping in for Hari Menon sir to introduce the forum for today. We have a journal club and journal scan for today, and the host institute for today is none other than St. John's Medical College and Hospital at Bengaluru. The journal club article today is very pertinent, and we thought about it, especially in a routine clinical practice. The first author for this article is Francesco Mora, and it is a very well perturbed and well taken study. It is read as Genomics Defined Malignant Transformation in the Precursor Conditions in Myeloma, published in JCO couple of months back. So we start with the Journal Club article, which will be presented by Dr. Sanal Fernandez, who is an assistant professor at St. John's Medical College and Hospital, Bengaluru. So I would request his video to be played today.
Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I'd like to welcome you all to the Image Journal Club for the month of November, and also take this opportunity to thank the Image Group for providing me this chance to present and discuss the article for this month. The article for this month pertains to the precursor conditions of multiple myeloma and the use of genomics in the risk stratification of these conditions. So to begin with, I have no disclosures, and as we all know, plasma cell disorders comprise a spectrum of clinical conditions which varies from MGUS to plasma cell leukemias. The two main precursor conditions of multiple myeloma include MGUS and SMM, and they are differentiated between each other based on the quantity of the monoclonal band seen. So MGUS has a band of less than 3 grams per deciliter, whereas SMM has a band of more than 3 grams per deciliter. What's important to remember here is that both these conditions are characterized by no end organ damage, as is seen in symptomatic myeloma and plasma cell leukemia. So ever since these entities were described, there has always been a quest to stratify the risk of progression to symptomatic myeloma from these precursor conditions. So the first attempt at this was a longitudinal study that was described by the Mayo Group in 2007, and they pegged the risk of progression of SMM to symptomatic myeloma to be about 10% per year for the first 5 years, which subsequently drops to 3% per year and to 1% per year. They also found that certain clinical characteristics like increased number of plasma cells in the marrow and the presence of urinary M-band predispose these patients to a higher risk of progression. However, this was an earlier model and was not very sensitive, which required better prognostic systems for risk progression. The first validated score that helped better stratify these precursor conditions was the SLIM criteria, which sort of broadened the inclusion criteria for symptomatic myeloma. It expanded the scope of biochemical criteria to differentiate between myeloma and smoldering myeloma. This was followed in 2020 by the 20-20 criteria, which stratified smoldering myeloma into high-risk myeloma, intermediate-risk myeloma, and low-risk myeloma for the purpose of therapeutic and prognostication. So now that there was the validated IMWG 20-20 criteria for SMM risk stratification, one might ask as to what the need is to refine this criteria or to improve this criteria. So the first thing that we need to consider here is that both the SLIM criteria and the IMWG 20-20 criteria are based on biochemical parameters and estimate the clone size, which, as we know, is a much later event as compared to genetic mutations or a malignant transformation of the cells. The second thing is that in studies that have validated the IMWG criteria, we have seen that about 18% of high-risk SMM do not progress to symptomatic myeloma, and similarly about 10 to 15% of low-risk SMM have early progression to symptomatic myeloma, which shows that there is a cluster of patients that are not characterized or well picked up by the IMWG criteria, and hence this is an unmet need. The third thing here is that the trials that have recently come, such as the Aquila trial have shown that early intervention in the form of antibodies or lenalidomide does help prevent clinical disease and symptomatic the development of symptomatic disease. So keeping these points in mind, there has been an attempt to study the mutational landscape of these precursor conditions so as to better delineate the patients who are at a high risk of progression. So previous studies which have looked at the mutational signature of precursor conditions have looked at mutational pathways and epigenetic changes, but these studies have generally been restricted by their small numbers and the fact that they have looked at MGUS or SMM in isolation rather than a spectrum of disease. One of the largest studies from the Mayo Clinic, which came about 4 years ago and studied the genomic profile of SMM, showed that the MAP kinase pathway, the MYC pathway, and the ApoBic pathway are the predominant pathways that predispose patients to progression to symptomatic myeloma. These could make for good targets for a risk stratification score that is based on genomics. With this idea, we come to the article that is for discussion in today's journal club, which is that genomics define malignant transformation in myeloma precursor conditions, and this has been brought out by the Mayo Group. So coming to the methodology of the study, this study was carried out between 2016 to 2023 at the Mayo Clinic and the MD Anderson Cancer Center in USA. So a total of 374 patients, which included 290 patients with SMM and 84 patients with MGUS, were included in the study. And of which these patients were then, the samples of these patients were subjected to sequencing, either whole exome sequencing and or a whole genome sequencing to illustrate the mutational signature of these conditions. And 62 patients among the whole cohort were enrolled in early intervention trials, and the other 301 were put on observation and longitudinally followed up to see the progression to symptomatic myeloma. So the total number of patients divided into two cohorts, 277 in the training cohort and 97 into the validation cohort. So moving on to the results seen in the study. So among 374 patients that were followed up in the study, at a median follow-up of 46 months, 36% of the SMM patients were seen to progress to symptomatic myeloma, whereas it was only 5% in the MGUS group, which is in tune with the reported literature about the rates of progression of these conditions. Coming to the genomic landscape of the precursor condition. So this is a heat map of the mutations that were picked up on whole exome or whole genomic sequencing of the samples of these patients. So what is seen here is a spectrum of genetic changes seen. So if you were to put your have a look at this heat map, you could see that the predominant mutations seen in patients with these conditions include the RAS mutations, a whole number of copy number changes, and ApoBic mutations and hyperdiploidy. So when the genomic landscape of these precursor conditions was compared to a previous data set that had analyzed the genomic landscape of patients with multiple myeloma, it is found that there were 28 genomic patterns that represented malignant transformation to myeloma. So based on these 28 genomic patterns, the salient ones of which were RAS mutations, MYC mutations, ApoBic mutations, translocation 414, and hyperdiploidy, a new classification or nomenclature has been introduced or has been proposed in this paper, which is genomic multiple myeloma and genomic MGUS. So the patients with precursor lesions who had a mutational signature similar to multiple myeloma were classified as genomic multiple myeloma, and those without these high-risk features were classified as genomic MGUS. So this is different from the IMWG 20 criteria, and patients who have high risk on the IMWG criteria may or may not have a mutational signature similar to multiple myeloma. So when when this nomenclature was applied to the current study, it was found that nearly 39% of the MGUS patients and 94% of the SMM patients had genomic MM, and the rest of the patients had genomic MGUS. So what needs to be reinforced here is that while 94% of SMM patients had genomic multiple myeloma, only 36% had progressed at a median follow-up of nearly 5 years, which shows that a genomic MM does not correlate to clonal expansion and symptomatic disease, and that malignant transformation is an early event that happens in the natural history of multiple myeloma. So on further analysis of this subset to see the mutations that would predispose to clonal expansion and symptomatic disease, it was found that 4 particular genetic changes, that is RAS mutations, MYC mutations, copy number variations and ApoBec pathway mutations, were the ones that predisposed to clonal expansion and symptomatic myeloma as compared to just malignant transformation and genomic multiple myeloma. Based on the survival curves, the progression curves that were seen with these genetic changes, it was seen that patients who had these genetic changes were seen to progress at a much higher or a much faster rate as compared to patients who did not have these mutations. In particular, if patients had any 2 of these mutations, they were considered to be at a genomic high risk for progression to symptomatic myeloma. So based on this genomic score, a new genomic IMWG combined score has been proposed that makes use of a genomic score and the 20-20 criteria, and is a combination of both. So patients are stratified into the risk for progression based on the IMWG 20-20 criteria and the genomic score, and then classified into high risk, intermediate risk and lower risk. So this score has been hypothesized to be better at discriminating patients into high risk for progression and low risk of progression as compared to the IMWG criteria alone. And when this combined score was tested in the validation cohort, it was seen that it had a good discriminant function in terms of differentiating amongst those patients who were at risk of early progression as compared to the patients who were at risk for delayed progression. So the red curve shows the patients with the highest combined score, and the blue line shows the patients with the risk of the lowest progression score. And the discriminant function of the score was seen to correlate both in the testing cohort and in the validation cohort. So what does this paper or this article add to the current understanding of SMM and MGUS? So for starters, there is now a genomic based classification system as compared to the previous biochemical parameter based system, that is the IMWG score. And what this paper also shows is that malignant transformation is an early event in the natural history of multiple myeloma, and then malignant transformation does not equal clonal expansion and symptomatic myeloma. So this is reinforced by the fact that 96% of patients in the current study had a genomic multiple myeloma landscape, had a genomic multiple myeloma picture, whereas only 36% of them progressed at the end of 5 years. So to stratify patients into high risk of progression or low risk of progression, a combination of biochemical parameters as well as a genomic score is necessary, and either one of them will probably be insufficient to differentiate between early progressors and late progressors. So this is demonstrated in this picture, where it is shown that 90% of patients have a genomic multiple myeloma landscape, but only few of them actually progress to symptomatic myeloma. When you see these, similarly 40% of patients have a high risk genomic landscape in MGUS, and these are at high risk for progression to myeloma, and the other 60% that have a non multiple myeloma genomic landscape tend to do very well in the long term. So as I previously said, patients who have a genomic MGUS landscape have an indolent form of disease, and in this study no patient that had a genomic MGUS had progressed at 5 years, which shows that these patients probably have very good disease biology and do very well in the long term. Again, to reinforce, genomics alone is inadequate to predict risk progression, as we saw that 95% of patients with SMM had had malignant transformation, but only 40% of them transformed to symptomatic myeloma at the end of 5 years. There are several strengths to this study. The first is that it introduced a new nomenclature in the stratification of patients with MGUS and SMM, that is genomic multiple myeloma versus genomic MGUS. And as previously seen in the results, the patients with genomic MGUS do very well in the long term. The patients with genomic MM, despite having malignant transformation, do require further stratification in the form of the IMWG genomic model to predict those who are at risk for progression, and just the mutational landscape is insufficient to pick up the early progressors. Also, this is the first study that has studied the genomic landscape of both SMM and MGUS combined rather than separate entities, and has longitudinally followed up patients with these mutations to see who are the early progressors versus those who do not progress. But despite the study shedding light on the genomic landscape of these precursor conditions, there are still several unanswered questions or questions that have to be answered in further studies. The first and foremost of them is being what is the role of conventional cytogenetics in precursor conditions. So as we know, translocation T11, 14, 414 are the ones that predispose, 14, 20 are the ones that predispose to more aggressive disease in myeloma. However, the presence of these mutations in precursor conditions, the prognostic value of these cytogenetics in precursor conditions as of now is not known, and further studies would probably help us in integrating the role of cytogenetics in the stratification of these conditions. The second important thing is that, as seen in the study, just the genomic signature may not help us in stratifying patients who are at high risk for progression versus those who are not at high risk for progression. And more dynamic biomarkers are needed to identify the patients who might progress to symptomatic myeloma. So as seen in previous studies, markers such as hemoglobin, creatinine might not be the best at delineating those patients who might progress, and there is an unmet need for newer biomarkers that could be integrated into the with the genomic landscape and help predict the patients who are at a higher risk for progression as compared to those who have more indolent disease biology. The third thing is that what do we do with the patients who are at a high risk for progression? So as seen in the study, all patients who have a high risk genomic mutational signature do not progress to symptomatic myeloma. So that shows us that the transformation from a malignant clone to symptomatic myeloma encompasses several extrinsic and intrinsic factors, and also probably the immune surveillance mechanism of the body. Given this picture, it is important to delineate better therapeutic strategies for patients who are at high risk for myeloma, especially given that in the Aquila study where daratumumab was given to high-risk smoldering myeloma patients, there were at least 20-25% of patients who were early progressors despite receiving daratumumab. This shows that there are potentially other factors at play here that aid in the transformation of SMM to multiple myeloma in patients who even have a high-risk genomic landscape, and as such they may not benefit with daratumumab alone and may probably benefit from immune-mediated therapeutic immune modifiers such as anti-PD-L1 agents or immune modulators such as IMiDs and bispecifics. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation, and I thank everyone for a patient listening. And we now look forward to insights and comments from Dr. Hari Menon, who is the national faculty for the discussion of this Journal Club article. And I'll be happy to take questions after the comments by Dr. Hari Menon. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Sanal, for that comprehensive review of this article and also comments. And you have actually dealt with many of the points that I had kept in mind to discuss. And of course, that's part of the journal the journal descriptions also. So it's always been a debate as to whether to treat more so with smoldering myelomas than with monoclonal gammopathies of unknown sequence, and also to identify patients who are at a high risk for developing these characteristics. And we traditionally we look at what we look at clinical features, and also to some extent the extent of plasmacytosis, cytogenetics, etc., to determine whether these are likely to progress. And here we have another dimension that has been explored over here in terms of utilizing genomic data to improve stratification and predict progression to active multiple myeloma. And so there are clinical implications for this, and the study suggests that genomic profiling can redefine risk stratification in asymptomatic conditions. And we know that high-risk smoldering myeloma patients identified by the IMWG criteria model were consistently classified as genomic multiple myeloma. We do know that. And but the key genomic events associated also has been identified and highlighted in this article, especially the RAS mutations, the MYC translocations, the APOBC or the APOBEC mutagenesis that we call it. And also the study emphasizes the importance of distinguishing between genomic MGUS and genomic multiple myeloma. To a great degree of accuracy, actually. But there are also, so I would consider those as some of the positives that has come as part of this entity of MGUS and the smoldering myeloma. So basically, to me, integrating the genomic data with the clinical variables is crucial for effective patient management in myeloma precursors, and also identifying the risk for progression in these conditions are also uh, also important. But whether we can implement this in a day-to-day clinical practice is something debatable, but it always gives strength to the decision making as to whom we have to treat. And you did mention about the DARA-based study for high-risk smoldering myeloma, where we still encountered patients, almost 25%, who had progression to tract myeloma despite being given with a pretty aggressive treatment, which we reserve for high-risk myelomas. But certainly positives, because here we have an introduction of a genomic classification. We have a certain degree of more, if I may say, some sort of a stringent risk stratification by integrating genomic features with the IMWG to 2020 model. And also we will all appreciate that there is comprehensive genomic profiling over here with the whole genome sequencing, and also the whole exome sequencing also. And also there has been an identification of the key genomic drivers over here, which we have mentioned, which you mentioned, and I have also mentioned earlier in this discussion. And so there is a certain degree of refinement of the diagnostic criteria over here. I would say that over a period of time, with the ease of being able to identify these things, there would be a clinical utility that will emerge for treating these diseases. But I would say that in terms of, if I have to say, some of the drawbacks or a critique for this study, as you mentioned well, that there is an overestimation of the genomic myeloma over here in MGUS. And certainly there is almost, the study suggests that almost 40% of MGUS cases exhibit genomic malignancy, which may be actually an overestimation over here. And also, if I may say so, digging a little bit deeper, the exclusion of polyclonal plasma cells, the study excluded MGUS with significantly more polyclonal than clonal bone marrow plasma cells. And also, it would have been nice to have some sort of a longitudinal data over here in terms of some sort of the longitudinal samples from the same individuals, which limits the ability to track the progression of the genomic changes over a period of time. And also, there is a certain uncertainty in the long-term progression that we see over here, and there may be a need for integrating with clinical models. The study emphasizes that genomic profiling alone is insufficient in identifying patients who are at imminent risk for transformation or progression to a frank myeloma. So, to me, it will spawn a state where you might get down to over-treating patients based on this on the information that we get based on the genomic data. And of course, as you also mentioned, there's the exclusion of dynamic markers. The study did not include dynamic markers such as changes in the disease burden over a period of time, which could further refine the risk stratification. So those are my thoughts on the study, but certainly a step forward. And I would take opinions from my colleagues over here. I would start with Dr. Pankaj. What do you think about this study and your thoughts on the future for application for these studies? Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Hari. I think you have, analyzed this study very well, and you have covered actually all the all the comments. You've already covered all the comments. So definitely it is a step forward.
I had to really come prepared, Pankaj.
No, so that's what now. So you have not left any comment for us.
Yeah, but certainly there you might be some sort of thought for you to say, yeah. And I remember Uday also had presented this during our last seminar. Yeah.
Yeah, so the only thing is that we still do not know the racial disparity, in this kind of a situation. So the study is basically done in the Mayo Clinic, and those patients are mostly whites. So unless we know what happens in blacks, and Indian race identifies more with the black population. Uday has a good number of MGUS patients which he has identified through the epidemiological study. So actually, I would suggest, Uday, if possible, if you can do the genomic sequencing of all those patients. We have a longitudinal follow-up of those patients. And first we would know whether the genomic signatures are the same in
Uday, yeah, are you there?
We can't hear Pankaj. Your voice is lost.
Sir, I'm
No.
here, but Pankaj sir, you need to unmute yourself once more.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're
very
audible
much,
now, sir.
very much, yeah.
Oh, I don't know where I lost, but what I was trying to say was that Uday has a collection of MGUS patients, and if we can do the genomic profiling of those patients, that would be very useful, because we are following these patients up, and over a period of time we would know whether the genomic signatures are the same as in the West, as seen in the West, versus And the second is, what happens to these patients over a period of time. So that would be a very, very important information. Rest of the comments have already been made by Hari. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Do you think that there is, from what Pankaj had said, do we have the samples retained for us to be able to do that kind of a study?
Yes, sir. So, sir, we have already done the biobanking of all these patients, both from the marrow as well as from the peripheral blood. So, we have stored both the cellular and the non-cellular compartments separately. And this is in collaboration with Dr. Parth and Nikhil Munshi, sir. On their, we are following Dr. Nikhil Munshi's protocol for storing plasma and for the cells. So, currently we have not for the complete cohort, but we have approximately 20 to 25% of the cohort samples are available because many don't agree for getting a bone marrows done. So we do have a thing, and what Pankaj sir said, I totally agree that that's the way forward, wherein we can actually come out with the genomics and the progression of the Indian cohort over the next few years to come. So I totally agree with what Pankaj sir said. That should be the way forward, that we look at how these patients progress over a period of time. And in fact, we can then expand this to a multi-centric study wherein all the MGUS patients across what we have, we can put all of them together and collate the national data of how these patients of MGUS are doing. So that's very doable. But more importantly, sir, as far as this article is concerned, the authors tried to oversimplify the whole process of saying that by just doing genomics, we can have two broad categories of genomic MGUS and genomic myeloma. Maybe probably that's too much of an oversimplification of a multifactorial nature of progression. And the second aspect is the translational applicability to the countries outside the Western world is not yet fully clear, because given the cost and the accessibility to the whole genome sequencing or whole exome sequencing. So considering that, maybe as of now, the applicability of this to the real world settings might not be there, but it might tell us in the future of how these people would do. And as Dr. Sanal very clearly brought out, though they broadly said 95% of these patients with SMM had a bad genomic profile or a profile to suggest a translation to myeloma or a genomic MM, but over 5 years, only 40 or 45% or progressed. So again, that does not match very well. So these were my small comments from the article. So over to Hari sir or Velu sir.
Yes, Velu sir.
I think a job well done. Sanal, I must congratulate you on giving a very comprehensive presentation. That was good. And you had Dara on your slide, but you never said it, and Hari pointed it out. So your last line was Dara. So, and Hari, well analyzed. You have like Pankaj said, I think you just about covered everything. But just a few thoughts. These are early genomic steps, which right from a prognostic model for transformation has been, I agree with what Uday and also Pankaj said, that you can't oversimplify without integrating it in the existing models, which we already have, number one. Number two is that definitely, whether it's in the West or outside the West, doesn't matter. It's not ready for the clinic anyway. So right now we are far from taking it to the clinic. And the third thing is regarding transformation, if you've seen the percentages shown, there is hardly any discrepancy, 39 and 40. That's what you said?
Yes, sir.
So it literally corroborates. So what we have added is a certain amount of, we know what are the driver mutations which occur, which we have actually identified and put into a high risk and a low risk model. And we have brought that to the IMWG genomic model. That's a good start. So that may be a model and a template on which we will keep adding. And that adding is obviously going to over a period of time, like correctly brought out by Hari, there's no longitudinal data. So a model will occur over time. So if they've stored the samples of these people and going to collect again, we don't know. That is not part of the study. But definitely many of these people in Mayo and all do that. They convert these into longitudinal over a period of time, even a certain percentage of people. So those are the advantages. And like you said, the integrated model is going to what ultimately matter, and no role in this. We are going to discuss cytogenetics, biomarkers, and the things like this. At the end of the day, what we want to know is how early to treat and how early is early. So that part always will hang, and that's been over the last 20, 30 years that we've all been around, we've seen that is becoming more and more early. So SMM was also wait and watch, masterly inactivity. Now we know that's not true. Now we know that we have to intervene at, when to intervene also we have sort of defined. So I think this is heading ultimately towards that. How early is early to treat in such patients and to pick up, can we start treating, pre-transformation that we don't know? But these are certain questions which will be looked at in coming days, but definitely a good baby genomic step towards building a further good model in which we can actually take it to the clinic later on. Thank you.
Yeah, Sumit, you've raised your hands. Yeah, your comments. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
So, sir, I mean, wherein genomics smoldering, wherein 94% have genomic myeloma, but only 1/3 of them do progress to myeloma. So you mean, I mean, we focus so much on the tumor component, the genomics of the plasma cell clone, the burden in terms of the M band, bone marrow plasma cell percentage, but we not focus on the immune cell subset or the immune cell surveillance as to what is keeping it in check in the remaining 60%. So I think in future we should have a combination of both tumor as well as host characteristics, which will define which actually progresses to myeloma versus which will not.
So that's one thing that it is not really, because how much is the genomic landscape kept in check by the immune surveillance is something that has not been addressed or even considered, and it's there somewhere in the background actually. Though we all understand that in everything, the immune system has got some role to play in keeping any of the potential transformations under check. So that's not been addressed, and I don't think it's possible for us to quantify that either.
Sir, as far as what Sumit says makes sense, and what you rightly brought it out. But currently, various labs across the world, what they are doing is, that's why even when we are collecting the samples for our own MGUS database, we are taking cellular and the non-cellular component as well. So that helps us in understanding the niche, the microenvironment around the plasma cells of what is modifying and what is not modifying. So yes, a study in isolation of just the genomics would not help. It's also along with that the epigenomics or the epigenetics, the methylations, the various other components which do come in play, other than the immune cells as well. So immune cells are also a component of it. But the bone health, the various, the way the osteoblasts and the osteoclasts play around with these cells, allowing it to nurture or not. So various other factors do have a role. So a progression of myeloma, as I said, that it's multifactorial. Just by looking at one direction or trying to just look at genomics won't really help us in telling that which patient will progress and which will not. So all of us are finally trying to say the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. And but Sanal, do you have any other thoughts? I mean, you went in depth into this talk, and any other thoughts that we haven't discussed over here?
I think two of the major points I think that someone brought out was, one was there seems to be an overestimation of the risk in terms of, I mean, 95% of the patients having a genomic this thing. I think there is a certain possibly selection bias, as in only the patients with a larger monoclonal band or with clinically worse disease were probably included in the study. And that's why that's reflected in 95% of them having a genomic multiple myeloma, which might probably not be reflected in real world studies.
Right. Pankaj, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the only other thing is, and Uday also said that we, even though this is a very good study and doing a full genomic sequencing, but we are still have reached only 40-50% correlation. We are still missing 50 to 60% correlation. Why some patient progress and some don't? And one, we look at the non-cellular component. The second, we look at the immune system, as said by Sumit. So non-cellular component means we look at the mesenchymal cells or the structure which are supporting the cellular component. So we look at that because we know in myeloma that is also plays a very important part, and we have a lot of immunomodulators who actually work on these non-cellular component of the bone marrow. So probably I feel that another study looking at the non-cellular component and immune system may be able to explain another 20-30% of the things which right now we don't understand why some patient progress and some in spite of having a myeloma like genomic signatures and they don't progress. So definitely a step forward, but we are still far away from really understanding on the theory of why some patients progress and some don't.
Actually, it should not really surprise us. In all genetic disorders, if you see the penetrance of the gene and the epigenetics of a mutation and its ultimate effect into, creating a protein and actually targeting a target, even benign and malignant, the other factors which you have pointed out is what determines how much it goes through and how much it actually translates into a gene which is mutated and has achieved its goal. And so, but that does not happen in so many genetic disorders. You find the mutation, but phenotypically the patient is okay. So we shouldn't be surprised about that. And the microenvironment, and like Sumit said, definitely immune surveillance, the role of Tregs and the T cells and the NK cells and other cells which actually help you and the company it keeps in the microenvironment. So I think all these things do matter. The comorbidities come into play. They all have an effect on our immune system. So if you are a diabetic, if you've got other immunocompromising comorbidities, that itself also adds as a variable. So all those things have not been taken here. They've taken the genomic signatures and said, okay, this is what we have. And out of the 94 slowly transformed, fair enough. So that's data which is, I think, significant and will add to our future studies that we can actually rightly brought out by all of the other speakers, that we need to need the factors. What happened to the rest? Why didn't they actually see the light of the day and they are still silent or still there, but still not there? So I think we have enough raw material to launch a bigger, more meaningful study to answer these questions.
Dr. Sanal, did they look at the load of these genomic mutations like RAS, 20%, 30%?
Yes, sir. So they have recorded the VAF of the mutations and the base substitutions for the APOBEC mutations, but I think that part has not been analyzed. So probably in a subsequent paper, they would bring out as to whether that correlates to the risk of progression.
Yeah,
that
because
what you're saying, Pankaj, would be very important. I don't think they will miss it out if it was, they've seen the gross macro level already. So if it was having an effect, it would have been a huge impact saying these guys will transform, these guys won't. So it may be a subsequent paper, but I don't know what the real impact has been in this paper.
Yeah, exactly. We can figure out what are the driver, kind of a mutations and what are the things which are just lying, as a
yes.
there. So that would actually really, give us further information.
Yeah. Just one last point, sir. I think the median follow-up is just 46 months, and 40% of them have transformed. So in an unselected cohort of SMM, roughly at 15 years, 75% patients progress. So we'll have to wait and see, probably in a subsequent paper, as to how many of these high genomic scores actually progress. Maybe that would give us a better idea as if the genomics actually contribute to better risk stratification, or we're just pushing the barrel down the road.
Sure. So you also see the progression. Every few years it keeps dropping. Why does it drop? So obviously, again, whether genomic signatures has an impact. You see, coming to the last 5 years, it's hardly, it's 3% or 4%. You see, so it keeps dropping down the line every 3 to 5 years or whatever you showed us, and that is well known in practice, and it's nothing new. But what is the impact of the genomics here on that, and who are the guys who still come after 10 years, 15 years is important. Maybe these guys do, and others may not. So whether it's an open question, and I'm sure years to come we will get more data on this. Yeah. Do we have anything else today, Hari and Uday?
Hari, sir,
Hari?
you are muted.
Hari, you're muted.
Yeah, I think there is an eagle eye, and I will just hand it over to Sumit because we have actually exceeded the time
Yeah,
allotted for the case discussion.
that's why I politely just requested
Yeah,
because we run
thank
out
you,
of time. Yeah.
thank you,
Thank you.
Sumit.
Thank you. That was very nice, Hari. Very nice
Thank
and very nice, Sanal.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are my slides visible? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir. You can go it, sir.
Good evening, everyone. The journal scan article for this month, November 2025, was an Indian article. It read estimating normal reference interval for soluble BCMA levels in adults, a prospective study from a tertiary cancer center in southern India, published a couple of months back in Indian Journal of Hematology and Blood Transfusion. This is the first time that we have an Indian article as a journal scan article, and I believe that this is very relevant because the prognostic and the diagnostic relevance of BCMA has come into play a lot in the last couple of years, both with respect to the bispecifics as well as oligosecretory, non-secretory myeloma. And we had a journal scan articles few months back on BCMA and oligo and non-secretory myeloma itself. So just to enlighten the process to those who are new, a recently published article is chosen. We invite a commentary of 175 words or less before a deadline. Anybody, irrespective of any designation, with an interest in this field, can send a commentary, and the best commentary is selected and chosen by a team of blinded reviewers. And the winner gets a chance to present the journal scan article along with a certificate, credit hours, and lifetime membership. The intent is to read the latest articles in this field, learn the art of critical appraisal, the art of scanning in articles, more letter to editors from our country, and obviously, and most importantly, getting an opportunity to present in front of a relevant audience. So the winner for this month is Mr. Anil Kumar Yadav. He serves as a scientific officer in the Department of Cancer Cytogenetics at Tata Memorial Center, Varanasi. I have seen him personally, and he's a very hardworking and dedicated professional in this field. So congratulations, Mr. Anil Yadav. He had sent commentaries few times before also, and he had narrowly missed that times. And this time he's the chosen winner. So I would request Neerav to play the recorded commentary.
Respected seniors and teachers, good evening. So, first of all, thank you to the Image Society for giving me the opportunity to present the journal scan article on estimating the normal reference interval for soluble B cell maturation antigen levels in the adults. This is a prospective study from a tertiary care center in southern India, recently published in September in the Indian Journal of Hematology and Blood Transfusion. So as we know, the multiple myeloma is a cancer of the plasma cells, and it causes approximately 15% in Indian blood cancers and exhibit the population-based heterogeneity. So the clinical presentation and diagnostic criteria of multiple myeloma patients are aligned by the IMWG classification. The multiple myeloma is, as we know, the age-associated disease and is most common in older individuals, rarely seen below the 30 years. In Western world, the average age is 69 years, but in India, it varies from 54 to 59 years. Though the study by Dr. Uday Yanamendra et al. Observed the 67.5 years is the average age in India. In India, the various tests are employed for the multiple myeloma diagnosis and monitoring, like biochemistry, hematology, cytogenetics, molecular biology, and radiology, and all these methods are invasive or costly for the use in the resource poor setting. So with this mind, there is a growing interest in the alternative non-invasive and cost-effective biomarkers which can accurately reflect the disease status. So the soluble B cell maturation antigen is one of the markers. Because it is a non-invasive and consistent biomarkers, it is expressed on the surface of the cancerous plasma cells, but also on the normal B cells. So therefore, there is a necessity of establishing the range for soluble BCMA, specifically to detect the disease-related changes. So monitoring of soluble BCMA levels is very important. And there is a need for it becomes very important when any patient is receiving the BCMA targeted treatments. So this BCMA is a receptor within the TNF superfamily, and it is involved in the signaling pathway through NF-kappa beta and MAPK. So a study by the Geo et al. 2021, which already assessed the soluble BCMA levels using the R&D system in 198 healthy donors. So this study mainly included the Caucasian population, but few of them were from the Asian or Pacific Islanders, but the numbers were few. So with the thought of this mind, this present study has been thought, and there is some other study also by Visram et al., which showed the elevated soluble BCMA levels in MGUS and smoldering multiple myeloma were linked to increased progression risk and poorer outcomes. So, with the aim to establish a reference interval for soluble BCMA in adults from the southern part of the India. So, this is the first study from India. So coming to the methodology, this study was following the ethical approval. This study was done in the Department of Clinical Hematology and Biochemistry at the Amrita School of Medicine, Kochi, Kerala, from June 23 to June 24. The participants who met the inclusion and exclusion criteria, which is mentioned here, were enrolled in the study with the sample size calculated minimum 75 samples with the target values of beta value of 99%. The serum samples from the 84 participants were obtained from the biochemistry lab. The mainly myeloma age-matched controls were used in the study. Few of them had the comorbidity like diabetes mellitus, hypertension, dyslipidemia, and obesity. So these were very few. So it was impractical to exclude them. The age distribution were from 25 to 75 years. This study included gender-wise 46 males and 38 females. Total 84 controls were selected. The serum samples were analyzed by using the ELISA, and the statistical analysis was done with the different ranges of 80 to 95% coverage with p-value less than 0.05. And the software analysis was done using the R version 4.3.2 software. So coming to the result, the 8 outliers were identified, which were removed. So finally, 76 subjects were analyzed. Of these, the 45 were the males and 31 were the females. The age range is from 25 to 75 with the median age of 57 years. And these subjects were again categorized into different quartiles. The soluble BCMA analysis, which is shown in the table here, the first column is the median, then the different quartiles, then the mean value is shown with the standard deviation and p-value. So then the reference range was calculated by using both the parametric and the non-parametric. Parametric analysis, which is shown here in the bar diagram, is showing the slightly right skewed pattern. So there is a need of the non-parametric, which is shown in the table 2 here. So with the 95% coverage, the non-parametric showed the lower value of 54.75 to 106.75 as the higher value. So this soluble BCMA distribution was again analyzed with respect to the gender, which is shown in the left side of the box plot here, with the other comorbidity also. And when analyzed with respect to age, it has on further analysis, it has not shown any relation with the age, with the R value of minus 0.026 with the P value of 0.83. So the important points from this study this is a single center study which offers the preliminary reference interval data for soluble BCMA in an Indian population, specifically targeting a myeloma matched age group. The sample size was appropriate for a preliminary reference interval, but further multi-center studies with larger regionally diverse populations are warranted to broaden its applicability across India. So evaluation of soluble BCMA in individuals with renal failure but without multiple myeloma could provide additional clinical insight. Soluble BCMA levels across different stages of multiple myeloma, it may enhance its role as a comprehensive disease monitoring biomarker. The long-term studies are needed for the different physiological and pathological conditions which may refine its clinical utility. The future research, it may explore the role of soluble BCMA in other malignancy as well. Thank you very much.
So we come to the Journal Club article for the next month. It will be on 25th December 2025 on the eve of Christmas. The Journal Club article is Sequential Targeting Multiple Myeloma, Talquetamab, a GPRC5D bispecific as a bridge to BCMA CAR T-cell therapy. And from genomics, we switch our gears to CAR T-cell therapy for the next month. The journal Scan article is again an Indian article which is very relevant. It's an original article published recently in Clinical Lymphoma Myeloma Leukemia. It reads as Management of Relapsed Refractory Myeloma in a Resource Constrained Setting from AIMS New Delhi Medical Oncology Group. We move on to the quiz, and best of luck to everyone for the same. Over to Uday, sir.
Thank you, Sumit, for that. Can you see my slides, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So I would request all the participants to kindly join the quiz by scanning this code. For people who want to keep their name anonymous, they can write their mobile numbers as well, if that might improve the attendance. Neerav just told me that we have approximately 98 participants who are online as of now. So we request all of you to kindly join for the quiz. The quiz is going to be absolutely simple. It's going to be on the points what Hari sir and Dr. Sanal had discussed and on the Journal Scan article, which our dear friend had presented. So it's going to be absolutely simple, basics and take home messages.
Uday sir, currently we have 115.
150? Wow.
115.
115, 115.
That's also wow.
Yeah, we are okay with alphabets. We are okay with mobile numbers. We are okay with codes, whatever it is. Just join. That's what we request you all. So just join on in the quiz. We still have only 10 people out of 115 joining the quiz. We wait for another minute before we start. People should get motivated by looking at this girl, Aditi. She was the first one to log in and she's an MBBS student final year from Delhi. So people should get motivated and join at least in the quiz. Great. So with that, I will start off with the quiz. Even people can join in between. We have total of 10 questions, each for around 20 to 30 seconds each, depending upon the length of the question. And we request all of you to kindly, even if you want to, if you have a mood to join in, so you can just join in between. So the first question that we have is, which of the following statements correctly compares the risk of progression between MGUS and smoldering myeloma? Total of 30 seconds, so another 20 seconds to go. Is the fastest finger first and with the correct answer. So out of all these things, the correct answer is smoldering myeloma carries a significantly higher risk of progression in comparison to multiple myeloma. Progression to myeloma in comparison to the MGUS. So that is the correct answer. So let's see, 82% of you have answered it correct. And we have Dr. Nivedita, who is on the leaderboard as first rank as of now. So let's go on to the next question. Which of the following genomic events was identified as predictive of early progression from smoldering to multiple myeloma? So there are 4 mutations which are labeled here. And in fact, the presenter as well as Hari sir, both of them have specifically spoken about this particular mutation. Okay, so most of you have got it right, and that's the correct answer. So the apobec mutagenesis is the one which has been identified in this particular article as one of the most important uh, genomic event for transformation or progression from smoldering to multiple myeloma. So nice. And Dr. Nivedita still holds on to her first position. So with that, let's go on to the next question. What is the key limitation of the IMWG-2 2020 risk model for smoldering multiple myeloma as highlighted in this JCO 2025 study? Okay, so it really does not exclude the genomic data entirely because IMWG-2 2020 also talks of some amount of genomic information, but some high-risk patients may remain progression-free for years together. So that is a major problem with the IMWG-2 2020 risk model. Okay, and okay, these are the leaderboard at the end of 3 questions. So let's just go ahead. We have 7 more questions to catch up, so people can buck up and answer. Okay, that was limitation. Now we are talking of what was the impact of integrating the genomics into the IMWG-2 2020 risk model for smoldering. So the current genomic profile that today we have spoken about, if we combine that to the IMWG-2 2020, what is the impact going to be? And this was told by the authors in their final summary. Okay, 76% of you have got it right. So it's the improved concordance index in both training and validation sets that was found by integrating genomics in combination with 2020. So that's the right answer. Good. We have completed 4 questions. Let's go on to the next one. In this study by Mora et al., the current study that we have discussed today, what proportion of MGUS patients were classified as having genomic MM in the validation set? 10%, 39%, 47%, and 85%. We are talking about the validation set, not in the training set. Okay, it's not 39%, it's 47%, though I understand these are small nitty-gritties which you might remember, might not remember, but this is just to see that how much concentration you're paying on to the presenter when he was presenting his data. So again, fine, none of you have primarily got it right among the top 5 people. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Which statement best describes the patient classified as genomic MGUS in this article? Okay, we have a divided opinion. So they remained stable with no progression during follow-up. So many of you have written as they exhibited mutation profiles identical to the newly diagnosed myeloma. No, actually not. That you are talking of genomic MM, not of genomic MGUS. So for the genomic MGUS, they remain stable with no progression during the follow-up, whereas those with genomic MM are the ones who progressed actually during the follow-up. So the correct answer is they remain stable with no progression. Okay, Nivedita got it right. Aditya also got it right. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Which of the following is not a recognized clinical utility of soluble BCMA? So the general scan was on soluble BCMA. Please read it correctly. Which of the following is not a recognized clinical utility? Okay, so most of you have got it right. So differentiating, because the rest all, monitoring the disease burden, assessing the treatment response in the BCMA target therapy, and detecting plasma cell depletion and infection risk, all of them can be done by the soluble BCMA, but for differentiating between MGUS and smoldering. Okay, the top three people have stuck on to their positions. So let's, last three questions. According to this South Indian prospective study, the one which from Amrita, what was the 95% reference interval for soluble BCMA levels? Basically, what we are saying is what is the normal range, what these people have spoken about. Okay, most of you have got it right. I would have definitely got it wrong if I was on the other side. Okay, so it was 54.75 to 106.75 nanograms per ml. So that is a normal range which these people have spoken about. By the way, we also have another article from SGPGI which was published on the same topic of soluble BCMA. So all the interested readers should connect and read that article as well together with this article. Okay, Aditya went on to the first position. Okay, the last two questions. Which of the following scenarios highlights the unique utility of soluble BCMA as a biomarker in multiple myeloma? Okay, most of you have absolutely got it right. So it helps in assessing the disease burden in non-secretory. So when we say non-secretory, the protein values or the M protein values are useless, but BCMA can be used for identifying the disease burden and monitoring the patient with non-secretory. So this is one of those utilities of soluble BCMA outside the BCMA targeted therapies. Okay, and the last question. Which of the following best describes the role of BCMA in multiple myeloma immunotherapy? These are questions which are very easy, but it's the fastest finger first who would get the award. Okay, so as most of you have got it right, BCMA is expressed on mature B cells and plasma cells, making it an ideal target for CAR-T and bispecific antibodies. So this is a question which even undergraduates would answer on today's date. But let's see who is the fastest finger first and who finally won the award. So I think Nivedita, you lost on one question in between. Otherwise, you and Aditya were neck to neck in the competition. Heartiest congratulations to Dr. Aditya Jandial. And out of all, the toughest question was in this study, proportion of MGUS patients are classified as having genomic MM. So that's where I think most of you, only 6% of the people finally answered it correct. So that was the toughest question, I think. So with that, we would send across Aditya. You win because you are already a member of Image. We'll give you a free membership for the International Myeloma Society for winning this quiz. So congratulations to you. And I hand over the stage back to Dr. Sumit for closing the session. Thank you, Sumit.
We've already announced the date of the next Journal Club and Journal Scan and the articles too. I would request Hari Menon sir to give the vote of thanks.
So, thank you all for actively participating in this journal club, as usual, stimulating and also a trigger for us to dwell into the uniqueness of myeloma. I thank all my colleagues, General Velu Nair sir, who has always been a support, and Pankaj for his critical comments, and Uday for his insightful uh, uh, interpretation of some of the nuances of the study, and of course Sanal for giving a lucid presentation. Thank you all. Until we meet next time.
Thank you. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.
Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.